Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you live around the world. We're moving forward with the base hub design, the foot, if you want. And I'd made the statement in a prior video that I will go with the angled version as we see here. I had the option of rotating the center tube so that it was 90 degrees relative position to the struts, but I thought no, I'll retain the angled version because I swap one problem for, or a benefit for another problem, and that was I thought that angling or having these supports in line with the center axis of the tube would have been wise, because no matter which way I chose, this angled version or the slightly rotated version, I'm going to have a angled cutter on the base anyway. So I started proceeding to have a look at how we do that, and again, an engineer would be face palming and saying, no problem, Sonny. Well, okay, I'm not an engineer. And I thought that it would be better to have like a profile cut piece where it would cradle the center tube and have it welded. Again, a lot of this is not new. I'm replicating what I've seen and understood from other photos. And then that's getting tricky, because remember, one of the premises, one of the focuses is, can we build this in a workshop easily, or can we draw it such that we can convey the information to a fabrication engineer to build? I progressed to thinking, well, maybe we can have the hub itself, the actual tube, cut at a specific point or angle, and it then can be welded to a base plate. A sigh was had, and I thought, darn it, I wasn't thinking that, I was thinking something much more descriptive, and I thought, what happened if I just forego that? And as we can see in this photo here, these people who were obviously making a tube hub, as I will likely use, nothing guaranteed, but almost certain that this is the method I'd use, they still used a hub for the foot, a very robust design, in the same manner as I'm building now, which is this. So this is a version of it. You'll find out why these are coloured red in a moment. So that to me meant that I could get linear measurements for a piece of steel plate for all the components, and to have an engineer cut and then weld them together. That seemed to be a lot better than having all these compound angles. So I convinced myself this is the right thing to do now. Then I inserted it into the dome structure. I quickly got rid of the background interference, which was the honeycomb structure. So I orientated round where I'd put it in the dome. And because I had moved the struts when they were in the brown colour, because they retain the ends like we see here for the wee brackets, because I retained them in that orientation and just shortened them one end, it meant that I could then transfer the two struts and the base plate back into position very easily, just by rotating it around 45 degrees and finding a common point and drawing it across, intersecting the existing struts. So that was another benefit of having a regimented system for construction of the model. Then I thought, it gets confusing when it's all in brown, so I've colour coded it like many people do, and I've done in the past. In this case, it shows any struts that are of identical length. So this strut can be used in any one of 8 positions within the dome. Of course, the top pyramid has a common strut, but because of the method of drawing, we've been able to use it here as well. So again, we've got 8 struts. Actually, no, we've got we've got 8 struts. 8 struts of a similar length here. In all, I think we've got 7 different struts, 8 different struts, maybe something like that, and 6 different hubs. By placing it here in this manner and color coding it, it's a lot easier to see, and the red is highlighted saying it is different from these other struts, which still retain the original ends to them. But these ones, the red ones, have been coloured because of the ends have been cut. Then, while I was contemplating what we want here, I saw different aspects, and I thought, well, it would be better if the holes drawn in or drilled in the plates were in a more advantageous location. Back in the picture that we saw just before, the hole was effectively underneath the plate. Now, if you've worked in construction before, if you have a set point for your anchor bolts or the cast in place bolts, you'll know that getting it 100% right, while desirable and possible, is sometimes not always obtainable. And a larger hole has to be constructed in the plate, and quite often a washer over top of that, and then the nut put on top of it. That has to be done that way. We don't want to impose a construction method or requirement that's so demanding that a glitch, for whatever reason, creates a problem. We've had many times when on site we've had to have the welder cut out a hole slightly bigger with a gas torch to allow the brackets to be put in place. Or even in the tilt panel construction, where you can get very exacting, some of the cast in place anchors, or the concerts as we call them here, have been nudged, or we've just simply got it wrong, but quite often nudged at the time of concrete placement by just a few millimeters, and of course that causes assembly problems. So, that said, this plate has been extended somewhat so that a bolt or fixing can be drilled in place. The concrete pad or whatever pier that you're attaching to can be marked theoretically correct, but can be drilled at the time of assembly. And same here, before these are placed, a template can actually make the location of these holes accurate. So you'd have one of these plates as a template. So instead of getting 4 plates made, you get 5, and you can have center lines and distances measured on this, taken from a drawing, and they act as your faithful representation of the plate. The plate can then be sat over the holes and or drilled in place. You can't easily drill these two because your struts are in the way, interfering. So you can hear me. We don't want to make life hard for ourselves. So that's where we're at with the plates at the moment. They look a little bit bulky in some ways. We may even chunk them out a little bit further this way to allow for a bolt to be put in this position, because after all, a few extra holes don't go, well, they don't go, well, won't have to necessarily use them, but they act as, we've got a particular name for it which I won't use on this video, but it's a hole ready to be used if something else has gone wrong, I could say. And designing it in, or at least understanding what it can be used, is not a bad thing. So I'm anticipating we want to have the holes drilled for eventualities, and then these sent away to get galvanized, because after all, this is going to be a piece of metal that will be exposed almost entirely for the full length of its life in contact with a high potential corrosion or rust point. So simply painting or corrosion proofing them isn't enough. I think galvanizing or some such equivalent treatment would be prudent. Okay, so that's where we're at with the foot for the dome, and I think it would not be too onerous to fabricate yourself and have a welder do a good job in the welding, or if you're a good welder, do it yourself. Okay. Oh, by the way, this is just 5mm plate. This is a proxy, again, for development purposes. 5mm is just easy to manipulate and consider, but an engineer might consider this too light. If that's the case, then we will alter it accordingly. But until now, it has been a step forward, and I think, oh yes, just another thing. I was thinking that if we were to break the dome in this point and join two domes together, we could attach a dome together through this line, because after all, it's a logical segmentation or a joining point if we wanted to do so. So I took a strut from this side, from the left side, and put it in position as though a dome were abutting it. Two domes were coming in contact with each other, but I ensured that the struts wouldn't interfere with each other or the hubs. So I may have to do a full drawing of that to make sure that's right, but we may only have to adjust it for any interference with the actual metal hubs. But by putting a block, again of known size, screwing it in well, or fixing it in whatever manner, and coming in both sides, we've effectively joined the two theoretical domes together. Put the number of spaces, joiners in place, right the way through the four struts, and you've got yourself a pavilion. That was just an aside, just something I looked at while I was contemplating things. So there we go. We have got to this stage, looking quite good, quite happy with it, and we can move forward into an area that I have yet to decide where we're going. So now you know as much as I do, you poor people. Okay, see you later. Bye.